All right, so I just got flown in to this camp here. So what I'm gonna go over right now is what you need to do when you get into elk camp, right? An outfitter packed you in, you flew into some remote airstrip, any of that stuff. What do you need to do when you get into camp? For most people, that new environment has two big environmental variable changes, right? The humidity, it's much more arid up in the mountains across the west, right? So unless we're talking about Alaska, you're gonna be going into probably a drier environment than you live in. The other thing is elevation. Over tons of outfitted trips, I've seen people get into issues because they don't deal with hydration right off the bat. So that's what we're gonna cover right now. So one option you have, I've gone over this in videos, is the good old gravity filter. This usually takes some time, particularly after the filter's been used a few times. You have to flush them once they get slow. So this is the other option I was telling you about, a gravity filter. This one says clean, dirty. So while I get immediate fresh water with my Steri-Pen and my Grayl, I'll also fill up this with dirty water. So I'm starting to build up an inventory of water in camp. Now I'm gonna show you two immediate filter types that I like. Steri-Pen and this new one, the Grayl. I may be pronouncing that wrong, but let's run down here to the river. Right when I get into camp, I'm doing this. People, when they get into camp, they want to go shoot their gun. They want to go to a glassing point. They're excited to see the area. Got to put their tent up. They got to do all this physical stuff, or they want to do all this physical stuff. You got to get hydrated before that. So these immediate options are great. All right, so the first tried and true quick way to sterilize water is a Steri-Pen. Some guys have reliability issues with these. I don't. I just use a battery operated one. Yeah, you gotta bring in double A's, you gotta have backup batteries. But this is just the old classic. I haven't had issues with it. Some people have issues with them. Just make sure if you order these off of Amazon, if it doesn't work or it seems finicky, return it and get a new one. But easy deal with the Steri-Pen, you just gotta be set up for it. You've gotta have a top on at least one of your bottles that allows you to be clean, right? So this rim right here, you don't want to drink off of that because this is going to get contaminated with dirty water. You want to have a top like this that you put your lips on. That's only clean water there. So you don't want to be filling the bottle through the same edge that you're drinking out of, or you're just, you're basically taking in potential bacteria, viruses off the rim, right? And then for me, I use these Nalgene setups. So as I go through water, if I want to drink out of this bottle, I just move this lid here onto this. That's a human gear lid. I'll put a link down below. I think there's probably new models, so it might be slightly different looking than that, but that's what you need to use a Steri-Pen correctly. So fill this puppy up. This is awesome snow melt right now here in the spring, but one thing you want to be very wary of is if you're using a Steri-Pen, it's not going to sift out any silt, any material. So you want to try to get that water as clean as possible. There's very little shit floating around in there, right? That's what you're going for, because one, you don't want anything real big because the Steri-Pen won't sterilize it. But the other thing is you don't want to be, tasting all that grime and stuff as you drink it, because like I said, there's no way to filter it. If it's a really silty spot, a nasty spot, one thing you can do is you can run it through a t-shirt before you put it in this bottle. You can lay a t-shirt on the top of it and then sink it. It does take a whole lot longer to fill up. So here, this is a whole liter. So I'm just gonna click this twice. Gives me a little indicator. When I dip it in, the light turns on. You can see when it's submerged, it's gonna turn on. So here, I'll just keep stirring it. Okay, so the light turned off. That's the Steri-Pen. Now, that's a good way to do it. If you don't want to filter a ton of water, you can see it took me a little bit of time, wasn't too bad. But if I wanted to fill up all of these, I have to do it like 5 or 6 times and go through that process. Not the end of the world. But this Grayl, to me, is just a little bit easier. So what you want to do here is I just crack the top here. Okay, so air can go in and out. Now, we're going to pull this out. Filter's actually down here. So this is your dirty water container. So this solves the whole lid issue that I described earlier. This is your dirty water container. You don't ever want to drink out of here. And on here, it has you line. Here you fill the dirty water up to that, and then you just press it in here, and then you're gonna have clean water in here. So with this crack, I'm just gonna go right here, and then slowly compress the filter. Now you don't wanna like go crazy, but you gotta put some weight on it. So you can see that was the equivalent of doing the whole Steri-Pen thing. Probably took about 1/3 of the time. So here, let's see, I'm gonna have to do that 2 more times to fill up a big Nalgene. So the downside with this over the Steri-Pen is this actually takes a little physical. I mean, it's like, takes a little breath out of you, but it's way quicker. Gravity filter, just gotta fill up my dirty one. This one, for the longevity of your filter, try to keep silt out. The siltier it is, the slower that filter's gonna run. The nice thing about the gravity filters is they're a passive way to filter, right? You're not in camp, whatever, hang that puppy up and you'll be good. All right, so that kind of gives you the rundown on what you can do for when you're coming into camp and you wanna stay hydrated. It's super important, a lot of guys forget it. Use one of those real quick ways to get your water filtered so you got some water. And then if you want a passive way in camp, it's a little more efficient when you're out hunting or whatever. Get one of these gravity filters and filter some water that way. If you guys got value from this video, do me a huge favor, like the video and subscribe to the channel. I'll catch you guys later.